The courtroom was silent when Isabela Ferrer stood and spoke. In that moment, the world turned its eyes toward a case that no one had seen coming. Justin Baldoni, the actor known for his charm, his smile, and his inspiring projects, was suddenly at the center of a storm. The words harassment claim were enough to send shockwaves across Hollywood. The cameras clicked, the reporters rushed to their feeds, and millions of fans online began to ask what really happened. This was not just another celebrity headline. It was a moment that drew the attention of people who had followed Baldoni for years. The idea that someone with such a polished public image could be accused of harassment created disbelief, confusion, and anger all at once. The story was not about a movie or a red carpet appearance. It was about trust, character, and the difference between the person on screen and the person behind closed doors. Isabela Ferrer was not a household name before this day. Her decision to step forward and make her accusation changed her life overnight. Her name was suddenly paired with Baldoni in every headline. Some called her brave, others questioned her motives. Yet no matter which side of the debate people stood on, everyone could see that this was a turning point in the actor's career. The moment Ferrer spoke, the cameras captured every detail. The tension in the courtroom, the expressions of the lawyers, the shift in Baldoni's face. It felt like a scene from a movie, but it was real life. It was a chapter that neither Ferrer nor Baldoni could erase from their story. Why did Ferrer decide to speak out now? What events led her to make this claim in such a public way? And how will this allegation affect Justin Baldoni in the long run? These are the questions that the world is asking. The answers are not simple. They are tied to careers, reputations, relationships, and the culture of Hollywood itself. As we move through this documentary, we will look closely at who Justin Baldoni is, how Isabela Ferrer came to stand against him, and what this case reveals about the hidden side of fame. We will unpack the reactions from fans, the statements from experts, and the growing discussion online. The goal is not only to explore the accusation, but to understand what it means in a larger sense for both stars and for the entertainment industry. This is Star Celebrities, and today we dive deep into the story of Justin Baldoni, hit with a harassment claim by Isabela Ferrer. To understand why this case shook Hollywood so deeply, we first need to look at who Justin Baldoni is and why his name carries such weight. For years, he has been seen as one of the most genuine and inspirational figures in the entertainment industry. He built his reputation not only as an actor, but also as a director, writer, and advocate for social change. Many people first came to know him through his role on the hit series Jane the Virgin. In that show, Baldoni played Raphael, a character who was complex, charming, and at times deeply flawed. The role made him a household name and gave him a chance to show both his talent and his charisma. Fans loved him for the way he brought emotion and depth to the screen. But Baldoni's influence went beyond acting. He stepped into the world of directing and producing with projects that aimed to inspire audiences rather than simply entertain them. His film 5 Feet Apart became a worldwide success and touched hearts with its story of love and illness. Later, he directed Cloud, a film based on the real life of Zach Sobich, a teenager whose music left an unforgettable mark. These works cemented Baldoni's image as someone who wanted to tell meaningful stories. Outside of film and television, Baldoni built a reputation as a speaker and author. He gave talks about masculinity, vulnerability, and the importance of breaking free from stereotypes. His book, Man Enough, was praised by many readers who felt it encouraged men to embrace sensitivity and openness. On social media, Baldoni often posted about family life, fatherhood, and his love for his children. All of this made him seem like one of the most relatable and trustworthy stars in Hollywood. Because of this carefully crafted image, the claim made by Isabela Ferrer seemed, who wanted to tell meaningful stories. Outside of film and television, Baldoni built a reputation as a speaker and author. He gave talks about masculinity, vulnerability, and the importance of breaking free from stereotypes. His book, Man Enough, was praised by many readers who felt it encouraged men to embrace sensitivity and openness. On social media, Baldoni often posted about family life, fatherhood, and his love for his children. All of this made him seem like one of the most relatable and trustworthy stars in Hollywood. Because of this carefully crafted image, the claim made by Isabela Ferrer seemed almost unthinkable to many people. Fans who looked up to Baldoni as a role model were suddenly faced with a story that challenged everything they believed about him. Supporters asked how someone who spoke about respect and kindness could be connected to harassment. Critics pointed out that in Hollywood, appearances can often be deceiving, and that behind the scenes, even the most admired figures may have a different side. Baldoni also became known for his role in supporting social issues. He often used his platform to highlight conversations about equality, mental health, and community. He was the kind of celebrity who seemed to want to do good with his fame. That is why this case felt so shocking. It was not just an accusation against an actor. It was an accusation against a man who had branded himself as a champion of justice and empathy. Hollywood has always been a place where reputations can change overnight. A single claim can undo years of work and shift public opinion in an instant. For Baldoni, the harassment accusation from Ferrer represents that kind of turning point. His career achievements, his family image, his activism, all of it now hangs under the cloud of uncertainty. This chapter shows us why the world is paying attention. Justin Baldoni is not a minor figure. He is someone who shaped culture, influenced fans, and promoted values that many admired. The claim against him, therefore, is not just about what happened between two people. It is about the trust of millions who believed in him. As the story continues, we must also look at the woman who brought this accusation forward. Who is Isabela Ferrer, and why did she step into the spotlight with such a bold claim? Before the day of her testimony, most people had never heard the name Isabela Ferrer. She was not a major Hollywood star, and she was not someone constantly in the headlines. Yet the moment she stood in court and made her accusation against Justin Baldoni, her name became known around the world. To understand the impact of her words, we must first look at who she is and how her path crossed with Baldoni. Isabela Ferrer comes from a background that is very different from the world of glamorous red carpets and flashing cameras. She had built her career, quietly working in modeling and small acting projects. Some knew her for her striking presence and her growing social media following, but she had never reached the level of international fame that Baldoni enjoyed. For her, the entertainment industry was a place of opportunity, but also a place filled with challenges and hidden power struggles. Those who knew Ferrer describe her as determined and independent. She was someone who wanted to create her own path rather than rely on connections. She used her online platforms to showcase her work and to connect with people who supported her journey. In interviews, she spoke about her passion for storytelling, her love for fashion, and her dreams of expanding her career. She appeared to be someone who was ambitious, but also aware of the difficulties of navigating a world dominated by powerful figures. Her connection to Baldoni is what placed her in the spotlight. While the exact details of how they met became part of the courtroom discussion, one thing was clear. Their relationship, whether professional or personal, had reached a point where Ferrer felt compelled to speak out. This decision did not come lightly. By making such an accusation, she risked her career, her reputation, and even her safety. Yet she still chose to step forward. The media quickly began to search for every detail about her life. Old photos were shared across platforms. Articles were written about her past roles or friendships, and even her personal hobbies. In the space of a few hours, she went from relative obscurity to being one of the most discussed figures in Hollywood. For some, she became a symbol of courage. For others, she became a controversial figure whose motives were questioned. Ferrer's decision to bring this claim support and validation, while others faced backlash and disbelief. Ferrer entered this ongoing cultural conversation with her own voice and her own story. Whether people supported her or doubted her, there was no denying that she had taken a bold step. It is important to remember that Ferrer is more than just the accusation she made. She is a person with dreams, goals, and her own struggles. The court case may have placed her in the public eye, but she continues to be someone fighting for recognition in a highly competitive industry. Her testimony may have been the moment that brought her attention, but her life and identity go far beyond a single courtroom scene. Now that we have looked at both Justin Baldoni and Isabela Ferrer, we turn to the heart of this story. What exactly did Ferrer say in her claim? What words shook the courtroom and captured headlines across the globe? The words spoken by Isabela Ferrer in the courtroom changed everything. Until that moment, the trial had been followed by some, but not with the level of intensity that would soon surround it. When Ferrer raised her voice and made her harassment claim against Justin Baldoni, the atmosphere shifted instantly. Reporters leaned forward, cameras began to click, and the public outside started to receive breaking news alerts that spread across social media within minutes. Ferrer's accusation was direct. She described moments where she felt pressure, mistreated, and placed in situations that crossed professional boundaries. Her testimony painted a picture that many found disturbing, especially because of who she was speaking about. Baldoni had always been seen as a man of respect and compassion. To hear Ferrer describe experiences that contrasted so heavily with his public image was almost surreal. She spoke with detail about interactions that left her feeling uncomfortable and vulnerable. The courtroom remained silent as she laid out her story. Every word was noted, every gesture was analyzed, and every pause carried weight. Some observers said that Ferrer appeared emotional, yet strong, determined to make her truth heard. Others whispered that her delivery seemed rehearsed and carefully crafted. These divided perceptions quickly became part of the debate outside the courtroom. What made Ferrer's claim even more powerful was the setting in which it was delivered. A courtroom is not a gossip magazine or a talk show. It is a place where words can carry legal consequences. By speaking in that space, Ferrer elevated her story from rumor to official testimony. That single fact gave her words a level of seriousness that could not be ignored. Baldoni sat across from her as she gave her statement. Witnesses described his face as shifting between focused disbelief and tension. Some reported that he shook his head slightly as Ferrer spoke, while others noted that he remained still for much of the testimony. His legal team took careful notes, ready to respond and ready to defend him against a wave of allegations that now threatened his reputation. The claim itself was not only about one moment. Ferrer described a pattern, a series of experiences that led her to believe she had been harassed by someone she once respected. Her story included settings, both professional and personal moments, that blurred the lines between workplace interaction and private encounters. It was this mixture that made the claim especially difficult to dismiss because it suggested a larger problem rather than a single misunderstanding. Outside the courtroom, the world reacted in real time. Social media platforms exploded with hashtags that placed Baldoni's name and Ferrer's accusation at the top of trending lists. News outlets rushed to publish headlines that captured the drama. Supporters of Ferrer praised her bravery for speaking out against a powerful figure. Supporters of Baldoni defended him, arguing that his record of good works and his public persona prove his innocence. The clash of opinions grew louder with every passing hour. The heart of Ferrer's claim rests not only in what she said, but in the fact that she was willing to say it publicly. She put herself in a vulnerable position, facing potential backlash from fans of Baldoni and from Hollywood insiders who prefer silence over scandal. For some, that act alone was enough to convince them of her sincerity. For others, it raised suspicion as to why she had waited until now to share her story. The courtroom testimony of Ferrer marked the beginning of a new phase in this case. No longer was it speculation or quiet rumor. It became a documented allegation that would now be weighed by lawyers, judges, and perhaps even a jury. The question was no longer just about what had happened between two individuals. It became a larger question about truth, power, and the responsibility of public figures. As the testimony concluded, the world was left with more questions than answers. Did the events happen the way Ferrer described them? How would Baldoni and his team respond? And what evidence would be presented to support or challenge the claims? The story did not end with Ferrer's words. In many ways, it was only the beginning, because now the spotlight shifted to courtroom itself and to the reactions of those present when the claim was first spoken aloud. The courtroom is often described as a stage where truth is revealed and reputations are tested. On the day Isabela Ferrer delivered her harassment claim against Justin Baldoni, that stage became one of the most watched in Hollywood history. Every eye was fixed on the witness stand. Every ear was tuned to her words. The air felt heavy, as if everyone inside the room understood they were witnessing a moment that would echo far beyond those walls. The judge sat at the center, maintaining order, while lawyers from both sides prepared their strategies. Ferrer spoke with a calm voice, but her words carried weight. She described moments that made her feel powerless and vulnerable. The silence that followed each statement was almost as loud as the testimony itself. People in the gallery leaned forward, eager to catch every detail. Reporters scribbled in their notebooks and typed furiously on laptops, knowing that each sentence could become the next headline. Justin Baldoni sat across the room, flanked by his legal team. His posture was straight, but observers noticed the tension in his expression. At times, he looked directly at Ferrer. At other times, he stared down at the table in front of him. Those in the gallery could not hear his private conversations with his lawyers, but they could see his gestures. Small shakes of the head, a tightened jaw, a deep breath. To some, these signs showed frustration. To others, they showed disbelief. The lawyers on Ferrer's side listened intently. They asked her to explain details and provide clarity on her claims. Each time, she answered with determination. The goal was to build a picture that felt consistent and credible. Meanwhile, Baldoni's legal team prepared their questions for cross-examination. They wanted to test the strength of her statements and to see if any contradictions could be revealed. Throughout the testimony, the judge called for calm whenever emotions began to rise. At one point, whispers from the gallery grew loud enough that the gavel struck and order was demanded. This reminded everyone that despite the media frenzy outside, this was still a courtroom bound by rules and law. What struck many people present was the emotional weight of the moment. Even those who had no connection to either Ferrer or Baldoni felt the intensity of the story. Some observers reported that Ferrer's voice trembled slightly when she recounted certain experiences. Others noted that she showed remarkable composure given the circumstances. Different people saw different things, but all agreed that the atmosphere was unlike any ordinary hearing. The press wasted no time capturing the drama. By the lunch recess, dozens of articles were already published. Phrases like courtroom shock and bombshell testimony